Hello, Hope Church Sittingbourne. It's me, Gordon. It's wonderful to be speaking to you. I wanted to send you a little video which we promised that we would do following the trial run that we did at Fulston Manor School. We'd asked you to send in feedback. Quite a few of you did, which was really helpful. And what I've done, I've very quickly consolidated that feedback on those two post-it notes. If you rewind it and pause it, you can probably avoid watching this video and just see what I've bullet pointed. I've tried recording this video several times. This is the last one I'm going to do. So I'm going to try and go through them, give them adequate time and consideration to explain where we're at. This isn't just my perspectives on it. This is also the perspectives of other people that we've chatted through, prayed it through with, the leadership team, wider leadership team, people in the church. And so hopefully this will help just bring a bit of a sense of us all moving together, what we're doing, why we're doing it. And if it raises any questions, please do come and speak to me directly. That'd be really, really helpful. If from anything I say, I tread on any toes or I upset you because I critique something that maybe you sent in and you don't like it, I'm really sorry. I'm not a politician. I'll try and be as diplomatic as I can. Hopefully my heart and our heart will come across. We're all in this together, aren't we? We gather together for Jesus, to worship him, hopefully to enjoy the relationships that we got together, because we're all falling in line, I guess, with the same vision and mission, that we've all agreed on that, not necessarily for our preferences. So the fact I get a frappe in the morning at Costa is wonderful, but that's not the only reason I come to church. And so when there are changes, someone said to me recently, Gordon, because you're a pioneer, because you're a church planter, you're used to change. You like change. That's why you do what you do, because it's not, you can embrace change and roll with it. You're quite intuitive in that way. For some people, they're not wired like that, and that's a good thing. But I need to be aware of that, because as we make changes, I can just be like, "Yeah, let's go to the nations, to beyond. Let's change, chop, chop, chop." And for others, you may have just joined us, and all you've known is us in Costa. You never knew us as a house church. You've not seen all the changes we've gone through over that time, and meeting in different ways at Costa, chopping and changing it all. Sometimes when it was very, very clunky, and other times when it's been very, very good. Similarly, as we take steps into wherever the venue is, whether it be Fulston Manor or even somewhere else, like where we did at the Apple Yard as well, it's going to feel different. Every space is going to have its own dynamics, and then, as others have commented, how we lay out the space is going to change the dynamics. If we're sat in circles or around tables, it encourages participation and conversation. If we're sat in rows, it encourages front-led, them and us, kind of the clergy and the laity, the pastor and the sheep, kind of, for want of a better description, although it's biblical. And so we want to avoid some of these things, and this was some of the feedback. So I'm just going to go through these post-it notes, if that's okay. Hopefully I won't cause offence. It's not my heart. I'm not thinking of any particular person if I critique something you're saying. I just want to be very, very clear on that. So I'll go through the considerations first, like the things that would be better, or things that have we thought about. And so I'll just go through it. So the first one is that the new venue, Fulston Manor School, isn't as central as Costa Coffee at the Forum. Very, very true. It's not as central. One of the things, Costa Coffee was a real gift to us in that it was a central landmark site near the high street. Everyone knows it that's local. You can say Costa Coffee at the Forum, right opposite the train station. It's very easy for local people and for people travelling in to get their bearings because of how central it is. And that makes it easier for some people to get to as well. It's bang on the high street. And so we're very aware of that. We have moved out of the centre. One of the things I would say, actually, is if you go on Google Maps and zoom out a little bit, we are still quite central to Sittingbourne. Yeah, we're a little bit more in the southern Sittingbourne, but it's still quite central, particularly with regards to travel routes. If you're someone that drives, it's actually a little bit easier for some people to get to, but also for some a little bit further, particularly if you're walking. One of the things I wanted to say, if you're a walker, and particularly if you're coming from Milton Milton Regis or Kemsley, that area, it is a lot further, because it was a bit of a walk from there to the high street, and then you've got to add on another 10-15 minutes. And I would hate it if we lost anyone just because of the location. One of the things is, like, we've tried meeting in lots of different halls, like King George's Park. We've met in Tenham at a hall there before. We want to be able to be a church that meets all over Sittingbourne. I'd love in years to come, that we might actually have different sites in each of the towns, much like our friends in Medway. You never know what God might do. So we want to have as many connection points as possible. When we have one large Sunday sort of central venue, obviously access is important. If you struggle getting there because you're getting public transport, or because you're walking, and this is making you think, you know what, I just need a church on the high street, please have a chat with us, because if we can help to arrange lifts, we will do that. It'd be a real shame if we lost you. But I think, like I started off, we're not meeting just because of the venue. Hopefully not. We're not wedded to the venue. Well, that's been a wonderful venue, and I love Costa dearly, really do. Actually, we're meeting to worship Jesus and to meet with one another, and encourage one another in our faith. And we're hopefully all aligned with the vision and the mission of who we are together, and that's born out of who we are together, like not just me and what's on my heart and what I feel God's called us to when we moved here, or the Gregorys who joined us from day one, and Robin Pung and Chris and Jitte and others that were right with us from day one, meeting in our front room very early. We haven't always been a coffee shop at church, and then we moved into Costa as an extension of our front room. We never did a big public Sunday launch. I remember the earliest days, there was about 10 of us spread across 3 tables in the corner of Costa Coffee on the 21st of October 2018, and we've now grown to the point where we're filling it. And over that 5 years, barring when we didn't meet because of lockdown and COVID, all those horrible years where we was online, although it was fun, we've chopped and changed so much. We've met in different ways. We've had it long ways, sideways. We've tried it in groups. We've tried it front led, and it's just a constant flux. As we chop and change things, it changes the dynamic a little bit. And as we move into Fulston, it's going to be the same. A bit like moving house. I'd use that analogy online in our chat group. You might move your furniture around for the first few months that you live there, just trying the house out in different ways. It's the same for us. Don't use that first test Sunday that we had in June as like, this is what it's going to be like all the time. We're going to chop and change stuff. One day we'll be in the Millennium Hall. So hopefully that just brings a little bit of clarity to that. Large hall versus a small hall. Some of you were like, we really like the size of the drama studio. It's a bit of a larger space. That's a good thing. And then they looked through at the Millennium Hall and they said, we love it, but gosh, it's so much bigger. Like, we're going to rattle around in there. Do we need to move in there straight away? I think, no, we don't. That was one of the things. Having done the trial Sunday, actually the hall that we were in, the drama studio, felt bigger than I thought it would when I went to look at it without us in there, when I just sort of went to look at the space. And so we've made the decision, along with the school, that we're going to start there on the 9th of July. That means our last Sunday at Costa's now the 2nd of July. It means we're all together to be able to say goodbye, because this week we've got a lot of people over at New Life Church Tunbridge for the New Day Sunday. And so our first Sunday is going to be the 9th of July, and we're going to try the venue out in lots of different ways. We're going to be trying different kinds of setup. We're going to try adding a table or two. We can't fill the room up with tables and make it feel like Costa. It's too small for that. We'll need to go in the Millennium Hall to do that. We could have lots of tables in the Millennium Hall and it would still feel too big, but we could retain that sense of us all together, which is something I wanted to explore, and we're going to try that out one Sunday. But it's the reality of what it is, and so we felt the same. We saw that. We recognised that. One of the things, particularly if we're in rows, I do think, like some of you had said, it changes the dynamic of the meeting. If we're all sat in rows and there's just things happening up the front, it can very much feel like the clergy and the laity, sort of the shepherd and the sheep. You know, it's very much just all front led, and it feels like you're maybe a bit more at a performance. There's less of that conversational thing going on. That's tricky, because when we're in a meeting, in a room like we're at, it's hard, other than changing the seats so that they maybe face one another a bit more rather than looking at the front. That's one of the things we want to change, but we can't fill the room up with tables. So we're going to put a few tables in there, which is probably the most we can get. One of the comments on the positive side was actually the space of the room, without all the tables and chairs set in there like at Costa, and all the dividers, actually made it so that we could all be a lot closer, and the kids could interweave with their mums and dads. People could get up and chat and go and check on the kids. And so for parents, they preferred that without all the tables, and, you know, it kind of makes more stuff to have to navigate. And so these are the tensions that we're having to navigate and manage all the time. So we're going to just have to chop and change and be comfortable with that. And we'll see how we go, see how we get on. We don't want to be like a Baptist church where it's like, well, I don't like sitting like this, and let's all agree it. Well, let's change it. The pressure's on now. Let's avoid that. We don't want to do that. It's not what we're about. We're a family. We're all in this together. And it means there's going to have to be a bit of give and take, a bit of compromise. And hopefully that's not a deal breaker, because we're all in it together and we all love one another and we all want to honour Jesus. We're here to honour him, not necessarily recognise our preferences, although they are important. We don't want to be dismissive of that. So sitting in rows versus sitting in circles. My friend who leads a church in Colchester, when they changed to a bit more front-led, they said midweek we sit in circles, on Sundays we sit in rows. And that was just because they got to the size, a couple of hundred people, they couldn't all sit in circles anymore. And it's just the reality of growth. Eventually things have to change. So we're not there yet. We want to retain the sitting in circles. We want to retain the sense of us together, maybe even looking inwards a little bit. And so we'll see how we get on with that. Someone said that they didn't like having drinks standing up, particularly if you've got mobility issues. That can be tricky. So one of the things we want to do, obviously, we can't have hot drinks in the drama studio particularly, but we're going to try and make sure that there are some chairs in the foyer area, and particularly in the summer, outside as well, if the weather's with us. So there's somewhere to sit. And so we're going to try that. Again, don't take that first Sunday, the trial one, as this is what it's going to be like all the time. Genuinely, we were catching up with ourselves, having to set up. We had about 8 of us setting the room up. It was all very much like go, 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 go. And then once we'd done the first Sunday, we've then got a long list of things. Let's do the tea and coffee different. Let's do the PA different. Let's do the chairs different. They're all things that we're going to have to navigate and work out. And so then we'll just chop and change and tweak it a little bit. And so don't take the first Sunday as like that's always going to be like that. Very much like if you took the first Sunday we ever met at Costa, gosh, it was really clunky, really difficult. We weren't sure how it was going to work. It was glorious because it was fun, but it's so much better now because we've grown into the space and made it our own. Similarly, like with any move, like whether it's a move into a house or wherever, you have to make the space your own, and that's what we're going to try and do. The acoustics both have been a positive and also a negative. So Adam Gregory particularly, I think he was leading worship that morning, had noticed as soon as he started singing, the carpet, because it's carpeted floor, carpeted walls and things hanging up and everything, completely killed the sound, particularly once the room was full with bodies. The sound didn't travel at all well, whereas in Costa there's a lot of bright surfaces that the sound bounces off of, so we're going to need to mic up the instruments and the person up the front a little bit more. That's fine, but that was one of the things that was a little bit of a critique as well. And then just quickly, I'm going to rattle through the positives and yes and amen to those, and make some comment on those. So there's free parking at Fulston Manor, which if you're driving, that thing of parking for 2 hours, £2.60, it's like another £10-15, excuse me. Cool. It's about another £10-15 a month, depending on whether it's 4 or 5 week month. That's a fair chunk. And you think you multiply that across the church, what if that money was added into people's giving? That would give us so much more for kingdom work, or actually just more to buy coffee on the way home. There you go. But free parking on site is great. A couple of people have mentioned the fact that we're in a private setting. So some people said this as a critique as well. Like it's not a public building. It's great at Costa because people can just wander up into our coffee meeting and hear about Jesus. That sounds great in principle. We've probably only got, literally in the 5 years we've been there, probably got a handful of instances where that's happened. And I've got far more instances which the church wouldn't be aware of complaints that we've received through Costa or directly, where people have approached people and talked to them, shared the gospel with people and they've not wanted to hear it because they're paying customers out on a Sunday to enjoy their coffee, or where worship services sprung up around them when they got to Costa with their family and they've had to go downstairs and they were happy upstairs. And so it sounds brilliant, but in principle, I'm with the kind of, it's a private setting. It's much better. We can make more noise. We haven't got the noise drifting up from the coffee grinders. I'd love it if someone was coming to faith every week we met at Costa. The reality is no one has. The only ones that have come to faith are people that we already have prior relationship with, people that have been invited along by people already in the church. We've had one person that I can think of, I won't name names, who's wandered in and come on Alpha and then decided not to follow Jesus. And so in reality, it sounds brilliant, but we're an inconvenience to the customers that are there. We're a blessing to the coffee shop as paying customers and just who we are. But for many of the customers that have gone out for a drink, we're an inconvenience. It's the reality of some of the feedback that we've had. And I've had specifically and had to navigate, literally meeting up with people to talk it through because they've made complaints. So just adding that in there. The link with the school as a positive, it opens up a whole new community. Adam Vogt said this about when Cornerstone City Church, I was part of that move. We moved out of the Jasper Centre into Mid-Kent College, into a school that everyone knew. And the church exploded. And within 6 months, we were hundreds of people rather than probably 80 people. And it just opened up a whole new community. We were reaching a whole new postcode. We were more accessible for a whole new load of people. Plus the people that we'd maybe moved a bit further from still kept coming because they loved who we were and what we were about, and they loved the relationships they had with one another. And so there's that whole Eden Village area that we can start to make connections with, reach into, maybe do proclaim there one Saturday and knock on some doors and let people know that we're local. So that's a real thing, is in that it creates links with the school, links with the local community, and plus over time, you never know, we might be able to get some sort of chaplaincy or something like that with the school. We've already got great relationships there. All of our kids have been there. I've been a governor there. Natalie still works there. And so there are links. I know all of the senior management at the school, as does Natalie. And so there is a possibility that doors may open in the days ahead. Who knows? One of the other positives, there's less noise. I think I've touched on this, but coffee grinders and people going up to the toilets and using the hand, like the hand cleaners, the Dyson things, when you put your hands in, all of that noise, we don't have that at Fulston. One of the comments was, we can jump around and dance and sing and do what we want without any fear or any worries about that. I think that's a positive thing. That's a good thing. If you sit nearer the front, you won't be aware, but there is a lot of noise. When you're nearer the back by the stairs, there's so much noise that flows up from upstairs. It can be quite distracting. There are better acoustics in that room, without doubt, as we amplify stuff particularly. It just got a lovely feel to it, particularly in prayer. I love the vibe. It's just got a lovely soft feeling to it. We get more time together, so we're on less of a time squeeze at Costa. We've always kind of said to the shop, we'll be there for an hour, hour and a half tops. We've slipped into an hour and a half, 2 hours now. We've got the space at Fulston Manor for 3 hours. It's affordable. And so there's just more time together. We get to have the morning meeting together and then a bit of time for tea and coffee afterwards. For some of you, you need to dash off. That is what it is. I'd encourage you, try and make the effort and rearrange your day to be able to stay with us. Get there closer to 10, so you're there for the start. Aim to leave just gone 12. Like 2 hours, great. Don't arrive mega early and then have to leave mega early, because you'll miss that time together, because we're not all sat around tables in the same way. The space is more malleable, it's more adaptable. So you go into Costa, everything is where it is. We can't really move all the tables. We can't move all the wooden dividers that are literally bolted to the floor. There's a lot of stuff. The room kind of dictates the meeting, whereas in that drama studio and in the Millennium Hall, we can put chairs where we want, we can put tables where we want, feasibly, particularly in the larger space. And so it's just more adaptable. We can do what we want. And like I said, some of the parents particularly really enjoyed the fact that they could just easily get to their kids. We were all packed in a lot closer together, particularly in rows. That might change if we had a couple of tables in. Like I say, we can't put lots of tables in just because it will make the space feel a lot tighter and more crammed, and there won't be more room for growth. We need to do that in the larger space, really. But we'll add a couple in because that will help. Easier access. So at Costa, there are the stairs, which has meant anyone with mobility issues or with kids in buggies, pretty much it rules them out of coming. We've literally had people over the years that have come and sat at the bottom of the stairs to try and be involved in what we're doing. That's not good. And we've always recognised that. Being at Fulston Manor means that it's all on one level. It's a lot easier access. All the facilities are very close and all on the same level, on the same threshold. That's really, really helpful. The location is a positive thing for some people. It's right near Brian and Hazel and Jill and ourselves. Like, I love the fact it's right near our house, which is handy when I'm having to cart the gear there every single week and get there, be the first person there every week, because it's all living in our spare room now because we haven't got on-site storage. These are things we need to think through. Who's going to be doing all the setup? Who's going to, like the Hudsons as well? So we need to be bearing in mind, if we're just turning up and playing our part, actually there's a lot of setup, a lot of stuff. We're going to ask some of you to get involved in teams. We're going to need to serve one another well. We can't just put it all on the hands of one or two families. And so hopefully that's okay, but the location works for some. And like I say, if the location doesn't work for you because you're having to walk in, please let us know and we will help you get there, whatever we need to do. There are people already that give lifts, and it won't be too hard for someone to meet you and pick you up from somewhere, either at your house or somewhere on the route if you're able to walk somewhere. We can help with that. If you need help, please let us know. It'd be a real shame if we lost people just because we've moved postcode. There might come a time when we then move closer to your house. Would you then come back again because it's convenient? We would hope you're with us for more than convenience, but actually because you believe in what we're doing and who we are, and you love us and we love you. Hopefully that's the sense of what we're together for. There's room for growth at the school, so we can move from the drama studio into a number of spaces, but particularly that larger Millennium Hall. But there's other classrooms we can use. Costa, it's a bottleneck. We've already filled it. We can't create more room there. The only thing we could do is plant out another meeting, but we're not really at the size to be able to do that. I think if we were to send 7 or 8, 10 people out of there to somewhere else. They would all be leadership types that would have a. We're not the size to be able to carry that off. I think that would be detrimental. We considered it. It's something we thought through, but just not feeling that that's something we ought to do. And I think that's it. I hope that's okay. I think that's it. I'm sure there's probably one or two other bits of feedback, but hopefully get our heart. Like we're gathering together for Jesus and for one another, and because we're all on the same mission. We feel a sense of call to do what we're doing. I love Costa probably more than most. I really do. I love the fact that we get to enjoy great coffee, that we've built wonderful relationships with the coffee shop there. But the intention was never for that to be our permanent home. It was a stepping stone for us. It was a plant pot, and we've now outgrown it. We need a bigger pot. And the school, similarly, won't be our permanent home for the next 10 years. I wouldn't have thought. I'd be surprised if it is. There may come a day when the school don't want us to meet there anymore for whatever reason, or we've outgrown it. Who knows? We may have to be like the persecuted or the early church, and we don't get to have the freedom or the privilege of choosing how we set the room up because we're all having to meet under a tree or in the shed at end of someone's garden because we are now persecuted. That day may come in our lifetime. And so it's wonderful that we've got the privilege of all these choices, but let's not get too wedded to them. Let's think about who we are, what we are together. We're all in this together. This isn't about Gordon making the decisions and, but actually let's all be informing things. That's why we try and have a bit of a round table and say, look, let's all bring and show. Hopefully we're approachable in that regard because we're all in this and we're all doing it together, aren't we? The church is us. If you leave, we're not the same church anymore. If I leave, we're not the same church anymore. As everything chops and changes, we are who we are together. It's not an organisation. We're not a business. So let's make sure we're all doing our best to try and move things forward and make sure there's always room at the table for one more. We want to be a church where there's always space for other people to find their place amongst us. And Fulston may help us with that. It may not. The location change may hinder us. And if it does, we'll need to think about that seriously in 6 months' time if we realise, actually, you know what, this isn't really, we're not growing. What are we going to do? What do? We're going to go back to Costa. We're going to go back to Egypt. What are we going to do? Although Costa's not Egypt, but do you get what I'm saying? So it's a long video. I don't need to say any more, but I'd love to pray, if that's all right, and maybe you could pray at home. King Jesus, we thank you so much for all that you've done over this last 5 years. I remember when we moved on the 7th of May 2018 with a hope-filled vision about Hope Church Sittingbourne, and now we look back 5 years later and just so gladdened. All the wonderful people that are watching this video that are part of what we're doing. And I pray, Lord, that you're rallying us together for your plan and your purposes here in Sittingbourne, for your mission, that many other people in 5 years' time again will be looking back in 2028 and we'll just be amazed at what you've done whilst we've been at Fulston Manor and probably all sorts of other places as well. We thank you, Lord, that you're connecting us to nations now through people like Ebenezer and other friends that have gone overseas. And Lord, we do pray for plants and for mission that will flow out of our church, people that will be sent, for teams that will be raised up, for elders that will be appointed, for people stepping into their destiny, for every single one of us to play our part. And that means all of us together. Honouring you, we're gathering to you, Lord, not really to one another, although we do love one another. And so, Lord, we just pray that this move will do us really good and it will do Sittingbourne good, and that we will honour you in the way that we outwork that. Some of us are up for it and on the front end of it, and some of us are maybe catching up a little bit and just trying to figure it out. Lord, may we all move in this together. We're a barge, not a speedboat. We don't want to rush ahead and leave people off the back as we push the throttle down on the boat. But at the same time, we don't want to get stuck and immobile. We want to go and take the land that you've called us to. And it looks like rolling up our sleeves and getting stuck in. So, Lord, we pray that you'll help us to win the battle and to take the ground and to see many souls saved and added and discipled, and them going on to make disciples themselves. For your glory, we pray, King Jesus. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Anything that I've said that's upset you, please forgive me. It's not the heart of it at all. But hopefully that brings a sense of what we're all thinking and feeling as we've been meeting and chatting and praying. We love you dearly. We hope that you're with us. And look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers, guys. Love you lots. Bye.